Perhaps some of you have noticed that if you try and run the application in your number 5 source files folder here, it doesn't actually function properly. The headlines don't show up. Well, that's because it's looking for a registry key to retrieve that feed URL for the XML data. So basically what we're going to do now is fix this by creating an installer that creates that registry key at the beginning of the installation process. Now, just as a little background here, the Windows registry is a portion of the Windows operating system where we can store and retrieve values. This application, this number 5 application, is demonstrating pretty typical functionality, because if you were going to have a web feed, for example, in your application, you would probably want that data to be dynamic. That is to say, your web feed is probably not going to stay identical for the next 5 years, so you probably want some way to change that if it ever changes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start up Setup Factory. We're going to start up a new project, and we're going to go ahead and follow our wizard that we've been using. So I'm just going to click Next all the way through, and then I'm going to drag in these 2 folders. Now, this is by no means the only way to create projects and folder references and so forth. This is just the simplest way. So just to make that clear, the reason we're focusing on this is because it's easier this way to focus on whatever it is we're working on. In this particular case, a registry entry. Okay, so that's our project. Let's go ahead and maybe change the name of our application shortcut just for cosmetics, and then we'll go ahead and do that for our video too. How about? So we're just going in the shortcut area and changing the name of the shortcut. Okay, so that's pretty good. Our project's set up, it's ready to go, but the only problem is we need to create that registry key. So we'll go into our Actions area on Startup, we'll click Add Action, and we'll choose the category Registry. Now, what we want to do is select the Create Key action to start with, because what we've got to do first is create a key. Alright, now there's a bunch of other stuff here, and actually you could get quite advanced and check for a key first before you create it and so forth. But in this particular case, we want to focus on just creating a key and setting a value, and we know that the key is not there, right? So let's go ahead and choose Registry Create Key and press Next. Now, as you can see, it gives us some default options here, and they're pretty good. Let's just go ahead and change where it says My Application to our title, and we'll set our title to be IR Forum, and that stands for Indigo Rose Forum. Let's go ahead and press Finish, and then we'll have to set the value of that key. So we'll create another action by clicking Add Action, and from the Registry category we'll go ahead and choose this Registry Set Value action. We'll press Next, and then in the subkey area here we're going to go ahead and type in IR Forum to match our subkey name that we created in our last action. Now, the value that the application is going to be looking for is called feed URL, and this was specified in the application itself. And the data that it's going to be looking for there is a web address to the XML feed to get its information. Now, in this particular case, I just pasted it in from my clipboard. Note that I left it inside quotation marks because it's a string value, and you can see it's just a web address, normal web address from the Indigo Rose website. So go ahead and press Finish, and then we'll press OK. And let's go ahead and build our application and see if it fixed our original application here. So I'm going to build it. I'm going to go into my Setups folder here, and I'm going to go ahead and run our installer. I'm just going to go through this really fast. We've more or less gotten used to the process. And there we go. It's installed. Now let's go to our Programs folder and run it by choosing Headline Grabber and choosing the little icon here. Let's see what happens. Is it going to work? There it works fine. So basically what we've got here is a situation where this application is going to the registry, it's getting that feed URL so it knows where to get these headlines from, and then it's going ahead and running. And if you don't have that registry key in place, of course the application is not going to work. So this is a very simple demonstration of how you can use the Windows registry to add advanced interactivity to your applications. Now, in this particular case, it's quite interesting because the original application was not created with that registry key inside. You know, a lot of applications will check for a default key, and if it can't find it, it'll create it. In this case, we had to actually do that with the installer, and you're probably going to want to do that a lot with the stuff that you're doing. It really simplifies your workflow. So basically what we're doing is we're taking some load off the application and we're putting it onto the installer. So that's one of the really great things about Setup Factory, is that you can actually, with all this advanced scripting and whatnot, you can actually basically no longer is an installer just an envelope for files. Now it's actually a separate application that can do all sorts of advanced things and really work in concert with your original application to create synergy. So that's using a Windows registry key. Let's go on to the next video tutorial.